Greetings, Ben Marie here with another edition of SaaS Metrics School. Welcome. Today, talking about the six possible revenue categories on your SaaS P&L. It's so important to get this right. One, to manage our business. And then all of this data flows downhill into our MRR schedule, into our retention schedules, into our SaaS metrics. So it's important to get the revenue categories set up correctly on your SaaS P&L and coding that correctly every month. So the six possible revenue categories. First, good old fashioned subscriptions, so that fixed MRR or ARR. Next, we have variable revenue. And of course, variable revenue is a big bucket, but this is what I'm calling usage based processing, transaction, consumption, that variable revenue that changes month to month. Now, if we have several variable revenue streams, and that's our main form of revenue, I am going to break that out separately on my SaaS P&L. So it just depends. Maybe if I have just one variable revenue stream, there'll be one category on my P&L, but I've seen a lot of different SaaS companies, and sometimes we have processing, some transaction revenue plus some subscription revenue. So if those were, for example, my three major revenue streams, I would show subscriptions, processing, and transaction on my SaaS P&L. So variable revenue, a big bucket, and that just depends on how many variable revenue streams you have there, and if we're going to call those out explicitly on the SaaS P&L or just roll those up into a variable revenue bucket. Next, professional services. So the setup, configuration, onboarding, training of our customers, that one-time revenue deserves its own revenue category. Next, we have managed services revenue, and seen this more often in SaaS. So this is that people-powered services revenue, but it's on a subscription basis. So it could be, for example, creating so many reports per month or something that needs to be people-powered and it's not delivered through our product. So managed services revenue, I'm going to call out separately from my professional services revenue. Next, we could have hardware. So if we sell a point of sale system, for example, if we have subscription revenue, or it could be all sorts of different setups there. We could have subscription plus hardware revenue. I'm going to have a hardware revenue category on my SaaS P&L. Now, of course, depends on your pricing. And if you're bundling hardware into your subscription revenue, that's a whole nother story. And then the sixth and final here is other. These could be adjustments, conference revenue. So sometimes we have this other bucket just to capture really small revenue streams or one-time revenue adjustments, conferences, etc. So of course, there could be other SaaS revenue streams, but I've seen a lot of SaaS businesses, and generally this is how I bucket and set up my revenue categories on my SaaS P&L. So again, subscriptions, variable, professional services, managed services, hardware, and other. So a little bit about revenue streams today. Thanks.